welcome Corinne Jacquemin to the program. She is the Executive Director of Food Watch, a food industry watchdog group. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.
You've said in the past that this agreement wouldn't protect the rights of French consumers. What are your organization's main concerns about the deal?
Yeah, that's actually not about fears, as some people say, but about documented risks, because CETA with Canada, as much as Mercosur, also the deal which is being negotiated with the South America countries, actually present the same dangers. And this is because those treaties actually are really looking at undermining all what is seen as barriers to trade. And those barriers, the problem is they do cover actually the rules for social rules and the rules for protecting the environment. So Canada is known actually for having already attacked European decisions based on precautionary principle in the past, when we banned 20 years ago the imports of hormone beef. And the problem is Canada is currently as well right now at the WTO also contesting some decisions in Europe based on the precautionary principle. If we ratify CETA, we will basically give a bigger right to Canada to contest those decisions. For example, if we want to ban a pesticide like glyphosate, if we want to ban a controversial additive in food, if we want to protect more the environment, Canada may say, well, this is a barrier to trade, based on this CETA agreement. Therefore, we are going to attack you. And nothing in the agreement is written to say, please, Canada, do guarantee us that if we make a decision based on a precautionary principle on GMO or pesticide, for example, you will not attack us. On the contrary. So it is a Pandora box and a sword of Damocles.
Well, as we heard in the report earlier, this has already been mostly 90% implemented for 2 years. So have there been signs of any of these things happening yet that you're afraid of?
A very concrete example is the CETA is actually setting up a number of thematic committees. One of them is about the sanitary measures, so what we are talking about GMOs and pesticides and so on. At the very first meeting of this committee, Canada put on the agenda glyphosate. And they put the question, what if a member state banned glyphosate and the other member states in Europe don't? It was clearly targeted at the promise from Macron to actually forbid the glyphosate in Europe. We know that Canada attack as many times as they can the decisions for limiting pesticides, limiting GMOs, because this is their trade actually advantage. They are trying to push this forward.
There are some benefits for farmers with this deal as far as removing certain barriers and costs for their goods. So are farmers united in being against this, or there must be some that see this as beneficial for them?
It's the first time that I see all the farmers' unions, and the FNSEA, which is the biggest farmers, usually disagree with Confédération Paysanne, which is the smallest one. They are completely together against CETA and Mercosur. And by the way, when we look at the so-called benefits, the reality is there is no any concrete, valid, credible benefits audit. There is no any credible document that says, oh, the economic benefit will be so much. Actually, the government finally made an audit very recently, and the results is quite small. So the question is, why would we take the risks of being attacked by Canada or Brazil in the case of Mercosur, or private investors with a special tribunal for them, for those very small benefits? I do not understand the rationale, except if you want to give more rights to the big corporations, which is going to happen.
It is expected to pass. French President Emmanuel Macron is behind it. His party controls parliament. So if it does pass, I mean, what do you think farmers and environmental groups are going to try to do to avoid the fears of lowering standards?
First, again, we are not against trade agreements. This is really important to say. We are against some mechanisms in those very specific trade agreements which are posing new threats. Then it's also the responsibility of the MPs, the parliamentarians, to vote next Tuesday. Maybe they will realize that it's better to be more cautious and take less risks. Now, CETA is the first one. It will create a precedent for many other deals that Europe is being negotiating. Mercosur is not finalized yet. We also have deals with Singapore and Japan and many others, and Vietnam and many others. So we have to make a point that those risks from those new generation trade agreements have to be taken into account. It has to stop, and the policy, the trade policy for Europe, for a better Europe, a more democratic Europe, this policy has to be revised to respect the rights of the people and the protection of the planet, which are the priorities.
Corinne Jacquemin from Food Watch, the watchdog group, thank you so much for joining us here on France 24. Now, some business.